another episode of The Only Playbook. I'm Sweetcar. I got Shovit. How's it going, guys?
Doing pretty good. Excited. It's a Monday. 10 more days until the draft. I'm itching a little bit.
Yeah,
Nice.
those
Same.
quarterback rumors keep getting bigger and bigger and closer, man. Are the Steelers going to get Malik Willis or not? I mean, I'm sure that's probably the biggest guy that you're thinking about on your draft board, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a quarterback. I just don't know if it's Malik Willis, Desmond Ritter. Let's see where all of them go. Well, Malik Willis goes first, and then that's probably going to just do like a, change
Domino effect. Yeah.
Domino effect, change the landscape of things. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you watched or listened to our last episode, we did talk about our top 5 draft picks in terms of the quarterback position for this upcoming draft. So go check it out. We're everywhere: social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor. If you're watching on YouTube. So appreciate the support. This week, again, episode 53, we are going to tackle the top 10 receivers in the draft. It's a pretty deep receiver class. So as opposed to 5, we're going to do top 10. We'll highlight some guys that we want to talk about and then just take it from there. So without further ado, I'll start us off with my top 10. My top 10 receivers here, I'm going to go 10 through 1. We'll jump through them real quick. Number 10, I have Alec Pierce, receiver from Cincinnati. Number 9, John Mechie from Alabama. Number 8, Sky Moore, Western Michigan. Number 7, Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. Number 6, Christian Watson, North Dakota State. Number 5, Chris Olave, Ohio State. Treylon Burks is number 4 for me out of Arkansas. Jameson Williamson, Bama. Number 3, Drake London, USC is number 2. And my number 1 receiver on the board is Garrett Wilson, Ohio State.
Nice. Shout out to Jameson Williamson over there.
No crow, shortstop. He had a cannon for an arm. Holy shit.
He's
Nice.
also an ass, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he's gotten nicer now.
Yeah. Time changes people, and age changes people too. So that solid top 10. I think we've got a very similar top 10 besides one guy. Number 10 on my list is Christian Watson from North Dakota State. Number 9 is John Mechie III from Alabama. Number 8 is Sky Moore from Western Michigan. Number 7, got George Pickens from Georgia. Number 6, I've got Jahan Dotson from Penn State. And number 5, I've got Drake London from USC. Number 4, I've got Chris Olave from OSU. Number 3, I've got Treylon Burks. Number 2, Jameson Williams from Alabama. And number 1, another OSU player, Garrett Wilson from OSU, from the Ohio State University.
Nice. So mine's gonna be a little weird. I'm gonna do 11 players because I'm gonna do a 1A and a 1B because I couldn't decide. So I'm gonna start with David Bell at number 10. We're gonna do Jalen Tolbert, number 9. Then we're gonna do Christian Watson at 8, Sky Moore at 7. Then we're gonna do Dotson at 6, and then we're gonna do Olave at 5. We're gonna do Pickens at 4. We're gonna do Burks at 3, and then Jameson Williams gets 2 for me, and then 1B and 1A, which I couldn't decide between Garrett Wilson and Drake London. We'll talk about the reasons when we talk about them.
Yeah, solid list. I think, again, overwhelmingly, there's a lot of receivers in this draft that I found that can be contributors in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see, the guys that get drafted early because, you need receivers, and then the guys that you get in the value rounds, second round and beyond. But I'll kick us off. I want to talk about one guy that neither of you guys had mentioned real quick, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. Number 10 on my list was Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is flying under the radar. This guy played receiver at Cincinnati with Desmond Ritter, Shovit, your number 1 quarterback in this draft. Cincinnati was a run-heavy offense. They were, pro-style offense for Desmond Ritter, but there was a ton of read options. So it wasn't like you had one go-to receiver and you force-fed him the ball. Alec Pierce is 6'3", 213 pounds. He isn't your prototypical, receiver. He's white, so for lack of a better word. So he's an outside white receiver, which again, you don't see very many of those, right? Like outside of Jordy Nelson, can you name very many? Probably not. A lot of those guys play in the slot. So the thing about Alec Pierce is this guy's measurables are absolutely insane. 4'4", 140 at 6'3", and he had the highest vertical out of any of these top 10 guys at 40.5 inches, right? So this guy's fast and this guy can jump. Not to mention, he ran his 3-cone drill at 7.13 seconds, which is the second fastest behind Jalen Tolbert out of everybody that ran it, right? So this guy, the only reason he's getting slighted in draft boards is because of his lack of production in college, which again, it's a fault because in an offense where they did not throw the ball a lot and he wasn't the focal point of the offense, obviously his production is not going to be there, but you cannot ignore these measurables, that the speed mixed with the size, mixed with the jumping up capability. And you see the 3-cone drill, a lot of bigger, lengthy guys that have like good straight line speed don't have quick agility. That's why their route running and their crispness of their route running is slower. So you see like straight line speed, but guys that can't get in and out of breaks, this guy can literally do it all, right? So again, I think he's flying under the radar because of his lack of production in college. I really, really like him. I think wherever he goes, if he fits into an offense, like this guy had better measurables outside of his 3-cone drill than Cooper Kupp, right? And I know that's an anomaly, but you look at significance or you look at similarities in size and stature, but this guy literally, my comparison for him was Javon Walker. Javon Walker was a amazing deep threat. He was an amazing jump up and get the ball receiver. He was physical. So again, I think this guy has a lot of these skill sets that a lot of these top 5 guys have, but again, because of his production, he's not being mentioned enough. So this guy could be a 3rd, 4th round steal in the draft.
Cool. So it looks like some of the weaknesses that some of these websites have for him is that he's limited in his route running skills. So is he more of just like a deep threat, or do you think he's going to be able to like, adjust and do some routes, closer to the line of scrimmage? Or from his college stats, does it just look like he's going to be, limited in what he's going to be doing for a team because he's just a deep threat?
No, I think that's a good question. And I think that, like you mentioned, that is one thing that hinders him. And it's because the way they played was he was their kind of go X receiver, right? And so a lot of what he got was like back shoulder fades, deep routes. And it was like over the middle stuff where it was like, read option, you see the linebackers come up and then he's catching like 15, 20 yards over the middle. But I think because of his 3-cone drill, you can see that he can get in and out of breaks just as well as a lot of these top 5 guys who are a lot smaller. So his 6'3" stature and his 4'4", 140 is not hindering his quickness in the inside routes. I just think when he gets that opportunity and capability, he's still going to thrive. I don't know that he's going to be like the number 1 receiver. Like I don't know if his high end ceiling is going to be Jordy Nelson from an outside perspective. I know Javon Walker's the comparison, but that's like probably the best he could possibly be. But I still see this guy being a bigger physical receiver that can also play in the slot because of his quickness and shiftiness.
Yeah, so number 10 on my list, I've got Christian Watson, North Dakota State, 6'5", ran a 4.36. This guy is one of those guys that's not getting a lot of maybe high buzz because he played for North Dakota State, but he's fast. He can move the ball really well. He's 6'5", vertical player, and he's it's a good red zone target at being as tall as he is. So I really like him. He had some of his weaknesses are outside of the lack of competition is that he had 16 career drops, but only 2 in last year in 2021. So I like this guy. This guy could be a good his ceiling is wide receiver 1 with that build and that frame. So I like this guy, top 10 from where he's being projected, but he could be a steal in the late 2nd rounds.
Yeah. Something that I tend to look at when I look at receivers outside of the flashiness, outside of the strength and the speed, is consistency, right? And, I'm not ranking this guy way high up on my list or anything, but I think David Bell from Purdue deserves a look as far as a safety net for a lot of these quarterbacks. He's not the fastest. He ran very slow 40-yard dash, 4.65, vertical jump just as 33. 3-cone drill was a 7.14. He's not the fastest guy at all, but he was super, super reliable in Purdue. His stat line was like average stat line was like a 8 receptions a game, 100 yards or more a game, and 0.7 touchdowns a game. So, as far as reliability goes, that's something that young QBs in the league are lacking. And we see that everywhere. Look at Jalen Hurts, look at all these other quarterbacks, these younger guys that need a reliable guy, not the fastest, because, we can see that a lot of these teams have speed. Look at Zay Jones, look at Rieger, speed doesn't mean everything. And I think the younger NFL fans are starting to realize this, that it's not just speed. It's not just flashiness. You need consistency. Look at people like Emmanuel Sanders. He's not the fastest guy on the field, but he gets the job done, right? So I think David Bell is kind of one of those players who's going significantly under the radar because he doesn't have the flashiness, but he has he has the stats to back up his consistency. 8 receptions, over 100 yards a game, and close to a touchdown a game is, it's pretty impressive for 3 years in college.
Yeah, he's not even on my top 10, but he was one guy that was, right outside the top 10 for me. So I think production matters. You're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of times people draft based on upside, right? So even if you don't see production in college, you're like, okay, well, he's still got the speed, he's still got the size, and the intangibles are there. So we can teach him how to be productive. And you can't teach somebody to be faster. You can't teach somebody to jump higher. And so I think you're right. I think that is incredibly important. Shovit, to piggyback on you talking about Christian Watson, my biggest weakness for him was exactly that, the drops, but it wasn't necessarily just drops, but the type of drops. He was such a body catcher. He caught everything with his body and not his hands. And I absolutely despise receivers like that. I think it's like it's something where like you learn how to catch from an early age, or you learn how to do something and then it becomes like muscle memory. And it's so hard from what I've seen to transition somebody who's typically used to all body catches to start using their hands. And that's when I think even more drops will come. So I think that was the biggest gripe with him, because again, his intangibles were insane. 4.36 and a 39-inch vertical for somebody. I mean, that's again, that jumps off the page as somebody that has a ton of upside. But again, when you catch with your body, I just think that leaves too big of room for error. So that was my slight with him. But Shashod, I'm with you on David Bell. I think he would fit into a nice, slot or a safety net role for a team with a young quarterback that just needs a guy who's reliable. I'll jump over to my next guy here. I want to mention Sky Moore out of Western Michigan.
Oh, wow. I had him just pulled up to talk about him too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Dude, this guy. So the thing with this guy is, to me, this guy could jump into the NFL right now. You put him on any team and you place him in the slot and he's immediately going to produce. Like, I think there is nothing that this guy can't do. It's just the fact that he doesn't do anything exceptionally well, that it doesn't jump off the page, right? So my biggest comparison with him was Tyler Lockett. And I know Tyler Lockett's a great receiver, but it's not like Tyler Lockett does everything every receiver can do, right? There are certain things that Tyler Lockett is really good at, and he's so incredibly reliable. That's the biggest thing with Sky Moore to me, is reliability as well. Sky Moore is going to be able to get in and out of routes. Sky Moore is going to be able to find the open space in the zone defense. He's got amazing hands. I think my biggest highlight for him was he can catch through contact. And that's really important when you're going over the middle, right? Is you're going to get hit a lot. And this guy, no matter the size of what is he, 5'10", right? He's 5'10", 195, and he goes over the middle and he still can catch the ball through contact. So not only does he have good hands, but it doesn't matter if you're hitting him, he's still going to hold on to the football. But my biggest gripe with Sky Moore, the biggest thing that I have is he doesn't look like a number one receiver. And I know that's a bad gripe to have because, at the end of the day, reliability, we just talked about it. Reliability is important, but based on draft, people always draft based on where they see value in. And so I think this guy is destined to be really, really productive, but I think he's going to be a number 2 receiver at best.
Yeah. So let me just talk about him real quick, Shovit, before you jump to your guy. But yeah, I think I see a lot of promise. I see I've seen comparisons to like Keyshawn Johnson. Big name. That seems like there's a huge outlook for this guy, a very promising outlook. Even the prospect grade on NFL.com is giving him probably going to be a starter eventually, as far as the outlook goes. So that's saying a lot, for a 5'10" guy who runs a lot of slot routes. That's saying something. So some of the positives: hands are A+. Hands are, bar none. Hands along with body control is what makes a receiver unique. So that's like, now we're talking Antonio Brown, those kind of receivers, because they're not the biggest. Antonio Brown is probably also 5'10", right? Like, he's not the tallest guy. But when you have hands and you're able to adjust your body to get the ball no matter the cost, that is what you make a good receiver out of, those two things. And not just that, but since he runs up the middle, he's going to get a lot of yards after the catch. Looks like the things that he's not totally polished is route running. But again, like you mentioned earlier, these things can be taught, right? You can't teach linear speed and you can't teach strength, but you can teach route running to their best ability. So I think there's a lot of promise for a guy like this. There's a lot of usage for guys like this because nobody likes to run up the middle. These diva receivers nowadays, it's just straight outside. Give me a screen pass. Give me this, give me that. But this is what he does. And he does it really well. And he's got a 4.41 speed. So, this has to mean something in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna piggyback on Sky Moore based on what you guys are saying. He's got really good hands, and last year on 125 targets, he only had 4 drops, which is a pretty good statistic. And reliability is key, and he has a QB rating of 116.2 throughout his college career when targeted. Like, so, I mean, that's a solid. If that's not a good reliability scale, I don't know what is. The only knock is, he's playing at Western Michigan. Again, this is the competition thing. I mean, if you're trying to look for some weaknesses, his size and the lack of competition is the only thing I can really, speak into. But other than that, this he's 8 on my wide receiver list, and he seems like a solid pick in the second round.
Shovis, give us one of your guys on your list.
Yeah, sure. Number 9 is John Mechie the third from Alabama. This guy, 6 foot. His strengths are he's got strong hands and he can make spectacular catches, and he's a great route runner as well. So Alabama, they play the SEC. So receivers that come from Alabama, I feel like they play the best competition that is in college football. And this guy has shown as wide receiver 1 that he can get the job done. Some of his weaknesses that why he's maybe not as high as some of the other guys is because one thing he did not participate in the NFL Combine. So I wonder if that's, I don't have his 40 numbers. So I'm like,
he tore his ACL in December.
Okay. So there's that uncertainty due to injuries. He's got a small build, so maybe he gets lost in the crowd when he's competing in the NFL level. It may not be a true X, wide receiver 1, but certainly could be a good wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in the big stages.
Yeah, I had a comp of Randall Cobb. Like, I think John Mechie's got really twitchy routes, which like Randall Cobb, I'm always really curious how Randall Cobb gets open because he's not the fastest guy. And a lot of times it's like, is Aaron Rodgers making him look good? But there's a reason across the middle, he does a really good job of getting open. And it's because his routes are so twitchy, right? Like he keeps the cornerback honest because he doesn't have the greatest of speeds. So you think John Mechie, for a guy who's only 6 foot, should have like some really, really good speed numbers. But even on film, it didn't seem like he was as fast as his stature should dictate for him to be, but he was still able to get open. So I think that was my biggest thing for me is not necessarily the route running exactly that, but how twitchy his route running is. So his ability to kind of deceive the cornerbacks into what he's doing, and that's how he's getting open. So I had him, I think, number 9 on my list. So again, there's a lot of promise, like you mentioned, Chauvin. Anybody that comes out of Alabama and has success is going up against probably the best level of competition in college. So there's always something to be said for their translation into the pros. Shisho, you got one?
Yeah. Let's talk about some bigger guys. Let's talk about D-Rose won't stop talking about him, so I'm pretty sure he's going to want me to talk about this guy. So George Pickens from Georgia, 6'3", is a junior, 195 pounds. That's what you want. If somebody were to be like, give me an ideal size for a receiver, I'd be like 6'3", 195. That way they can fly down the field, they can jump over guys, they can block. This size is very in a world where we have a bunch of little guys like 5'10", 5'11" guys. Having a 6'3" receiver that's actually good changes everything, right? Changes everything because the best cornerback on the other team is probably 6 foot or 6'1" at the best. So immediately having a size advantage and playing for a powerhouse like Georgia, it means something. Like these are the intangibles that are just given to you because of where you get selected. So playing for Georgia, succeeding in Georgia. So basically his best season came as a true freshman when he had 49 receptions for 727 yards and 8 touchdowns. This was back in 2019. So he missed most of the last season with a torn ACL, but being this lanky receiver and having these natural hands and having excellent body control, I wouldn't shy away from drafting somebody like this only just because he tore his ACL. We talked about it in the past as far as, what it means to be like truly injured. Like if you tear Achilles, you're not going to be that great anymore. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. There will be some players that can do that, but it's a numbers game, and most people that tear their ACLs or have, significant injuries to their body parts are not never going to be the same. However, the ACL is not one of those things. Depends on the mechanism of injury, but when you tear ACL, you can quickly rehab back because there's no joint damage. It's just torn on one end. You just reattach it, or you use a different piece to replicate what that ligament did. So it's a fixable injury. It's nothing to worry about. I think that even gave him more longevity because he didn't get banged up because he sat out most of last year. So, this is one of those really rare finds. I would consider him like a gold mine, a needle in the haystack kind of a situation where any team that's going to get him is going to get production immediately. There's a high chance this guy could be, not just a starter, but a really, really good player.
Damn, Dheeraj must have told you a lot of good things about him, because I have very, very opposite opposing feelings
really?
about George
Okay.
Pickens. So
Tell me.
this is really interesting. George Pickens, right? 6'3", 195. I have him listed as 200, whatever, similar stature. You're right. That is the ideal build for somebody who's 6'3", though. He ran a 4.47. So 4.4 speed's pretty good, but he's teeter-tottering closer to 4.5, right? And then you think of somebody who's 6'3", you think they should have, ideal jumping capabilities, and he only had a 33-inch vertical, right? So he seems like somebody who's in an ideally athletic, like the perfect build, but he doesn't quite have those intangibles. Now, what I will say, the biggest thing that I liked about George Pickens was his catch radius. At 6'3", no matter where you were putting the football within the vicinity, he had a really, really good capability and way to go up and get that football. But the problem with that is a lot of what they ran in Georgia, they were letting George Pickens kind of run freely from the get-go, right? So there wasn't a ton of press coverage. And being 6'3" at 195, he's a little bit more slender than some of these other guys who are pushing 200. So he really, really struggled when he was in press coverage. So it was like the physicality of it was something that he was not prone to it. And for somebody his size, you expect physicality to kind of come with that, but it almost seems like he shies away from that contact. So that's just kind of what I read, but you're absolutely right. I think Pickens has one of the biggest boom bust potentials in this draft, where if he is hit and he is playing to his potential, then this is a guy who's, not even top 10 on my list, and probably top 7 to 10 on most lists, but he could play like he's a top 3 receiver. So I do think that catch radius is special, because when you have a guy that you can just throw the football up somewhere in his vicinity, and he has a pretty good idea of how to high point the football and get there, there's something to be said for that. Because like you said, Eagles, a lot of teams would kill to have a receiver like that. So like you said, from a value perspective, if he goes in like the early third or maybe late second, I don't hate it. But I think that the deception of what he looks like versus how he should actually play is what I was like, my idea of what George Pickens should have translated on the football field and like how his intangibles should have measured out weren't quite there. And I think that's what I saw was lacking.
Yeah, he's number 7 on my list, and his high impressive arm, being able to catch the ball, and being the red zone target, and at 6'3", I actually have him comparisons of Calvin Johnston. Potentially.
Johnston or Johnson?
Well, it's Calvin Johnston skills. It's like the verb of being like Calvin Johnson.
Oh,
Johnston.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Yeah, Johnsonton, I guess. I don't know, something like that. Regardless, he could be really special. I think that his size that may be small, but once he gets in the NFL, I mean, they're going to hit the weights, and this is going to be his number 1 job. So he's got all the other intangibles as far as height, the wingspan that you mentioned, and if he is able to, have a bigger body, really be not afraid of contact and play, he can be a great wide receiver 1. So I think that he would be, like you said, a great value pick in the later rounds.
I'm thinking closer to like a Mike Evans if he reaches his prime. I think he could potentially do something like that. But damn, dude, Calvin Johnson with a T. Woo!
So it might not be the Calvin Johnson that we're thinking of. This must be somebody that's coming up in 2 or 3 years that Shovit's seen the future
it's gotta be
or something. Calvin Johnston's son, Calvin Johnston. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had him labeled as biggest boomer bust potential in my draft board. So, I mean, again, I think the value is there to take a risk on this guy because of all the things we've already mentioned, but I'm also absolutely not shocked if he just ends up not being very good. Yeah, my comparison for George Pickens was Josh Reynolds. He's got like that lengthy size, and like you think he should be better than he kind of is, but he just kind of gets by. Like he's there, like he's available when necessary, but he's not like the flashy number 1 guy that you expect him to be based on his stature. Let me jump over to one guy I want to talk about real quick, and then we'll get into the top 5 guys. Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. I have him number 7. This guy is really, really impressive to me. This guy reminds me of Deontay Johnson from his route running capabilities, but I put Deontay Johnson with hands. So I think that he doesn't lack like he doesn't drop the football like Deontay Johnson has notoriously done, and that he's gotten better at. But I know that was the biggest gripe on him. But Jahan Dotson coming out of Penn State is literally Deontay Johnson with hands. I think his footwork, he utilizes the middle of the field so goddamn well. The middle of the field stuff almost reminds me of Chris Godwin in a way. So I just think he's very, very fluid with how he operates in the middle of the field. He's got great hands. And again, my only gripe with Jahan Dotson is that he's not like that top end speed isn't as great as it possibly could be. I mean, he ran 4.43 and he had a 36-inch vertical. So like really good numbers, but not great numbers. And again, because of that, the biggest thing with Chris Godwin is I think every NFL team would love to have Chris Godwin, but I don't think there's a single NFL team that thinks Chris Godwin is a number one receiver. And I think that's where Chris Godwin thrives, right? He thrives having the Mike Evans type X receiver, and then he gets all the underneath in the middle routes. I think Jahan Dotson is built to be a middle of the field guy, and I think he's going to be really, really good at that.
Yeah. So just go ahead.
No, that's great. He's Deontay Johnson with hands back 2 years ago. So I actually, you guys are gonna love this. So I've got a comparison here of Tyreek Hill for this guy because he's got quick acceleration, plays fast, he's explosive. He's got a very good route. He's a very good route runner, and he's fluid in his movements. So last year he had 11 20+ yard touchdown catches. And he only had 2 drops from 138 targets, with a QB rating of 109.6. His only weakness, I think, is the fact that he does have a smaller build. But if guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like Deontay Johnson, guys like Antonio Brown could be successful having a smaller build, why can't this guy?
Yeah, I mean, true. I don't think his build is any special though, right? He's 5'11", 178. But yeah, I mean, anyways, you never know. You're right. You never know who could thrive. The reason I am afraid of this guy is because there's, I'm losing sleep, not really, but figuratively, that he may go to the Green Bay Packers. And if he goes to the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be a nightmare. The Packers have talked about, all over their social media, their Twitter, they're going after a receiver. It's happening. It might
be both. They might draft 2 receivers with those 2 picks, man. That's terrifying.
They might. And I have a pretty strong feeling Dotson's going to be a Packer here in this upcoming draft. Just because he fits everything. He fits everything you need in a young receiver just to get things started. He's got the swagger. First of all, I don't know if that's going to be a problem. I know a lot of people don't like receivers because they're divas and whatnot, but there's a reason they're divas, because they can do something nobody else can. That's something, that's a persona you build when you're face to face with a cornerback. You got to let that cornerback know he's not going to beat you, right? So it's a whole attitude that comes with it. And this guy's got it. Whether it's going to be his demise or whether it's going to, amplify him to be one of the next OBJs or whatnot. But one quote that he said last year or 2 years ago sticks to me. So after that one-handed catch against Ohio State in 2020, it was like an insane catch. In the interview afterwards, they asked him, tell me more about this catch. And he was like, I approached that ball as if the ball is $1 million. It's $1 million in the air. If you want it, you go get it. And I'm like, okay, so if that's your attitude with every ball that's thrown at you, you're going to succeed, young man. You're going to succeed. So, I like to piggyback off of those players and support for those guys because they have something other players don't, and that's confidence. And having the skill set, having the size, having the, just the winning mentality, all these things are the baseline you need to be a rookie wide receiver. And if you're going to go to the Packers, then game over. He's going to be a fantasy stud if that ends up happening.
Yeah, I think my biggest gripe with him from comparing him to somebody like Tyreek Hill, Shovit, is he's small. He's 5'11", 184 is what I have him listed at. He only ran a 4.43, and we know Tyreek Hill's like the fastest guy on the planet. And for a guy who's small, his 3-cone drill was 7.28, which is the same as like Treylon Burks, who's 6'3", 225. So he doesn't have that short intermediate burst quickness that he has it in college. But I don't think Tyreek Hill is another specimen. These comparisons with Calvin Johnson and Tyreek Hill, man, you're drinking a lot of these receiver Kool-Aids. Holy shit. We're going to have the greatest receiving class of all time. Get this right. So, but no, again, it's optimistic thinking, right? I mean, I hate when I do these comparisons, I hate looking at a guy and being like, Yeah, that guy reminds me of Josh Reynolds. Like I hated typing Josh Reynolds. So I'm like, okay, I've already destined that guy's career for like that's the best he's gonna be. It's like pretty shitty to think about. So I
Hey,
like
Reynolds' career is not over, by the way.
yeah, Reynolds season could be this year, man. Who the fuck knows? But I just thought that was funny. But let's jump into the top five. Let's jump into some of the important guys. When do you guys start us off with somebody you want to talk about?
Sure. I'll take care of Jameson Williams.
Yes.
I mean, these Alabama receivers, man, like everything from Julio Jones to Cooper, just all these guys, Jerry Judy, even like these guys, they come out just firing. Like all their eyes are on them. You know, these Alabama receivers, they come, they either prove it or they don't, and it's an immediate decision. We don't let these, we don't let Alabama receivers come and just whittle around the league and just do this, do that. They have a big tag on them. We want to see them do great, or at least the expectations are to be great. And Jameson Williams, again, the size is there, the height is there. He's a little on the scrawnier side, but that'll come with the workouts. You know, he only caught 15 passes in 10 games over the last 2 seasons at Ohio State. He did have a breakout season in 2021 after transferring to Alabama. So, that makes me wonder, is this just an Alabama thing? Like once people go to Alabama, they reach their potential and be elite. I think there's some truth to that. That's why a lot of people want to transfer and go to Alabama. But anyways, he's not just a deep threat. That's another thing that I wanted to focus on. He's 6'2", 179, but he's not just a deep threat. He's got a huge track background, and it clearly shows up on the field. He's got some crazy game-breaking speed. He also tore his ACL during January's college football playoff final, but he's apparently ahead of the schedule, like everybody is nowadays, because they got all these crazy PRP injections, and they can take blood from like a really, from a placenta, and that has like a really young stem cell, so it helps like recover quickly. There's a lot of research about this kind of stuff now. So he's very much ahead of his schedule. And I think, again, reasons like that are why receivers fall in the draft, because you don't know how long they're going to last in the league and everything. But I don't think that's anything we need to worry about. I don't think injuries of this kind, ACL injuries, should not be a reason you don't grab a player earlier than expected. But anyways, he's got some talent to emerge as a wide receiver 1. Definitely. That's why we have him in our top 3. I think all of us probably have him in our top 3. But yeah, so, this isn't something to mess around. This is something that's rare. This is something that's going to change the game as far as game-breaking speed goes, and he's got the hands to do it. So, it's an easy decision. If he's available, you get him.
This is another guy I worry he's going to drop to the Packers because of that ACL injury, and then he's just going to take the top off our defense for like 10 years. He's got speed. Speed is the name of his game. I mean, and it's not just like normal speed. This year it was kind of crazy for 40-yard dashes. I mean, you had Christian Dotson running like a 4.36. You had Olave and Wilson both running sub 4.40. So this guy didn't run because of that ACL tear, but this guy would have been like in this year's draft. He probably would have been like 4.3 flat or like sub 4.3. So this guy's got next level, like Will Fuller, Deshaun Jackson speed. Those are my comps for him, because coming in, like you mentioned, he's got a little bit of height, but he's slender. Yeah. He's coming off an ACL tear, which I know in this day and age is not a scary injury, but when I watched Jameson Williams, when I watched some of his tape, what I noticed is a lot of his production was because he was so much fucking faster than everybody, right? Yeah. So what that meant is he did not absorb a tremendous amount of contact because he pretty much never had to. Now he's got the type of speed that he could possibly never have to in the NFL as well. But at some point, if you're limiting your over the middleness because of just your speed, you literally become a Will Fuller, right? You literally become a Will Fuller where all you do is run go routes, or even Deshaun Jackson. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, yeah, maybe sometimes over the middle, but everything Deshaun Jackson caught, he was either like running straight to the sideline or like running deep, right? And so limiting contact is possible. I just fear that if he gets hit really, really hard, he's kind of fucked. And so, yes, he's young. So I know you get into the pros, you hit the weight room and you can totally build that. This speed is not something to be messed around with. This is kind of, again, my thought process. Like you take a flyer on a guy that's running this type of speed. The fear is that, again, the last Alabama receiver with insane speed was Henry Ruggs. So, who knows how things can shake out. But if not for the ACL tear from the national championship, I would not have been surprised if this guy was the number 1 receiver on the draft.
Yeah. And don't forget, he's a triple or dual threat. He returns kicks, and he returned 2 of them for touchdowns last year.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's number 2 on my list, and Shasho, your conversation about the ACL kind of gave me a little bit a little bit more
Hope.
comfortable feeling and hope at the fact that he's number 2, because that was one of the weaknesses for me in that uncertainty with the ACL tear. But it sounds like from a medical standpoint, that's something that's fixable. But what this guy will do, you guys have already mentioned, is the speed. This guy will burn his cornerbacks, anyone that's guarding him. He burned his players on 75.6% of his targets.
Yeah,
in
that's crazy that they
2021.
have a stat like that nowadays.
It's called the
Right.
burn rate. It's how
That's fucking
often,
awesome.
yeah. So how often you burn the defender that's guarding you. That's better than all the guys that will be talking about. Olave, Drake London, Treylon Burks. I mean, 74.6 is a high number. So you got to go out and grab them if you've got like the top 10 or top 15 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Speed kills. That's why I have a number 3. Let's jump over to Chris Olave, Ohio State receiver. Yeah, I have him number 5. Chris Olave is the best route runner in this draft class, in my opinion. This guy, my comparison should show you. Ironically, had already mentioned this name, Emmanuel Sanders. This guy is a carbon copy to me of Emmanuel Sanders. Great route running. He knows how to get open. His only weakness is a contested catch, which again, you think about Emmanuel Sanders, he's never getting like jump ball situation balls thrown to him. So that's not something that you'd be like, oh, Emmanuel Sanders is really good at. Yet he's still incredibly productive. He's jumped around from team to team and just been productive wherever he goes. That's why, to me, Chris Olave has one of the biggest floors in this draft, where I think he can go anywhere and be productive. But what the thing is, there's not any one thing that he does that like jumps out on tape to make me be like, wow, this is insane. Like I think he does everything so well that it almost flies under the radar. 4.39 40. He's 6'1", 188 pounds. His vertical is only 32 inches. So that's why I mentioned the contested catch. He's not going to be a guy that jumps up and gets the ball like that. But I think his fluidity, as how exactly Emmanuel Sanders has the ability to get open and run crisp routes and stuff, that's Chris Olave to me in a nutshell.
Yeah, Chris Olave is number 4th on my pick, the guy from Ohio State University. The interesting fact about that is Ohio State has not had a receiver drafted in the first round since 2007 with Ted Ginn Jr., and now they might have 2 guys drafted in the first round. So that's kind of impressive. But yeah, my notes for him as far as his strengths are that he's got reliable hands, he's got good football intelligence and awareness, and he tracks the deep ball over either shoulder and brings in passes with fluidity without breaking the stride. And he's got a quick first step. So all great things, I think, from potentially a slot receiver with his build, because he's a smaller guy, 6'1", 189 pounds. So he may lack the physicality to win outside. But as like a slot receiver, guys like Godwin, your notable slot receivers, I think he would excel in that role.
Yeah, I agree. This man's a walking highlight reel. Like any attempts, like you mentioned, it doesn't stand out as far as like consistency. I don't think I would be like, I'm not going to throw every single ball to him. You know what I mean? But there are points in the game where he could totally just change everything. That 4.39 speed is no joke. Anytime you're under 4.4, these dudes are really fast. And when you're playing for a college like Ohio State and you're their number 1 receiver, that's a lot of pressure. And that's a lot of, you got to overcome a lot to get that role in the first place. You got to beat out all these high school kids all over America to get that role. And he did that. He did that really well. Even as a true freshman, he had crazy numbers. He had good numbers. And then just 1 year after that, he just made his crazy leap. So, some of the NFL player comparisons I've seen online is Terry McLaurin. I know, Sweetcar, you mentioned he doesn't really go up and get the ball. But I don't think that's what you said. I think you said his jumping ability wasn't as high. But with the limited amount that he can do, it's not really limited in that sense, but it is less than what you would expect a true number 1 to have. But with that amount that he can get up in the air, he does a pretty damn good job. This man goes after the ball like there's no tomorrow. His ball skills are, just well-timed with these sudden hand grasps. And that's very underrated, because that's the way I like to play. When I'm comparing myself to me playing in the backyard, but it's those moments that let the cornerback know that the ball is nowhere near me. But instead, like you're just running and all of a sudden you go up and grab the ball. These sudden hand grasps are so important in the big leagues, because the cornerback is just as good as many wide receivers as far as tracking the ball. So he does that really well. And he also does a really good job using his speed to scramble with his quarterback. So, if he fits into another Jalen Hurts situation or Justin Fields situation, even Aaron Rodgers situation, they're going to thrive because this guy he does a good job of keeping his quarterback alive for as long as he can, instead of just giving up on the play or just, being like, hey, I finished my route. This is it. But he would fit in well with these quarterbacks that like to make that second adjustment, like a Russell Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes. So he's a very quarterback friendly wide receiver that has elite speed and that is willing to put his body on the line to just make plays happen. So, that's a rarity. Not everybody has even one of those things, and not everybody has all of those three things. So he's a gem out there for sure. And any team would be, extremely lucky to just get them. And he'd be a quick starter in the next 2 years, probably.
Yeah. Somebody want to jump over and talk about Treylon Burks?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks, 6'3". He's a fast guy. He's clocked in at 22.6 miles per hour in week 3 of his game. He's a pretty big guy in terms of what he can do. He benches 380 pounds, squats 500 pounds, and power cleans at 320. So this is a kind of a guy that, like, I think he would be really effective as a blocker. I know we don't talk about that from a wide receiver position, but that's an important role too. And I think that his big frame could create mismatches with his long arms and so going for that jump ball, I think having a big frame definitely helps him out. I have him compared to AJ Brown due to the size, athleticism, and ball control. He was used all over the field, kind of like Deebo Samuel was in San Francisco. So hey, this guy could be one of those Swiss Army knife kind of receivers as well. Some of his weaknesses, I think, come from the combine. I did mention that he, clocked in at 22.6 miles per hour, but I have him, his 40 speed on the combine at 4.55 when they were expecting a 4.44. So I think that may be a knock on that speed, but I think that his big frame being 6'3" will make up for any of those combine inconsistencies.
Yeah, I think so. My thing with Treylon Burks is, you're right, 6'3", not just 6'3", this guy's 225, right? So yeah, AJ Brown is a good comparison because build wise, this guy's AJ Brown, right? He's built different. He's like the DK Metcalf picture pre-draft, except he's not quite DK Metcalf. But my comparison for him was Dez Bryant. I see a lot of Dez Bryant in him. Ironically enough, Shovit, one of his weaknesses are he's not as great of a run blocker as you would expect him to be per his frame. But I think run blocking is something you can teach, you can get better at. But I think the biggest thing with Treylon Burks is he's got huge hands, and that's why. Like guys that have really, really big hands, even if their hands aren't as consistent as they could be, like at some point, like you learn how to use your, big hands to be able to catch the football. Treylon Burks, one of his knocks was on his deep catches, like over the shoulder and stuff. He's not using his hands, but he's letting it get to his chest and his pads. And so I think if somebody can coach him up on using those hands that are so big that he's going to have a really hard time dropping the football on, he's going to be really, really good at those high pointed contested catches, like exactly a la Dez Bryant type. And I think he has the ability to get better as a blocker because he's 225. He's going to be a lot bigger than those corners, those safeties, and on par with a lot of linebackers, to where he can possibly make an impact at that level. But I got him number 4 on my list because, again, I have a really, really big hesitancy with bigger, slower receivers because I don't know if it's the Laquan Treadwell PTSD where the guy wasn't fast, but he was big and go up and get the ball, and he just really, really bad. But I think Treylon Burks has a lot more physicality and upside and natural kind of intangible athleticism that's going to make up for his lack of speed.
Yeah, and another reason why he's so good is because he was an all-state outfielder. So he knows how to track balls. He knows how to snag deep balls. So, for that reason, I think that Dez Bryant comparison is really good because he's been laying out not only to catch baseballs, but to catch footballs as well. He does not care about his body. So that's somebody I want on my team that will go get the ball no matter what. And I think these things will definitely make up for his lack of speed because he's got the build to block really, really well. So again, that will come with, time. None of these players are NFL players. They're still college players we're talking about. So everybody's either going to improve, stay the same, or get worse. And I think there's a lot of potential for somebody with this much size that has, that's a multi-sport athlete. There's always light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to multi-sport athletes because, they're just innate athletes and they can just play with any sport. So I think he's going to do pretty good in this league.
I agree. Let's jump over to Drake London. Drake London, I have him as number 2 on my board. Real quickly, from my perspective, Drake London to me is a hybrid Mike Evans, Mike Thomas kind of build. He's got some of the best going up and getting the football skills I've probably ever seen. I mean, like, that's literally all he does. And he does it really fucking well. I think my biggest thing for him is his weakness is going to be his speed. He was hurt, so he wasn't there at the combine. He had a pro day, but he didn't run. But the reason I like the Mike Evans comparison is Mike Evans does a really good job of getting open by positioning his body, right? Like, he does a really good job sometimes of like being smart and knowing when to push off, how to use that arm, how to use that offhand towards not offensive pass interference. Drake London does that, but he does it better. So that's why I like the route running skill set of Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas was very fucking slow, but he's really, really good at running that inside slant and always getting open. How is he really good at getting open on that inside slant when he's so slow, when a lot of times DBs knew that he was going to do that? He's really, really good at positioning his body to a certain way to where Drew Brees was able to find him. And I think Drake London does a really, really good job of positioning his body to get open. His speed does not necessarily make him less of a a prospect, in my opinion. Typically, I hate guys, like I mentioned, the whole Treylon Burks thing. And Drake London's probably going to be slightly slower than Treylon Burks, maybe similar speed. But I think Drake London's ability to go up and get the football is second to none in this draft. Or, to be honest, I think he could go up in the NFL and be just as good as a lot of the guys in the NFL at jumping up and getting the football. So if anything, this guy's going to serve that purpose. But I think because of the route running and his ability to get open, even despite his speed, he's got so much more upside, and that's why I have him number 2.
Yeah, so I've got him actually at number 5, and his weaknesses are the reasons why I have him number 5, because of his speed. And he also did not participate in the combine. But I think that this is a guy that he's got a very big boom or bust potential. Because he's got that big body, he can, if he goes into a scheme where the quarterback, and he builds a relationship with the quarterback and is able to get the timing right, a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and is able to figure, not even with the smaller, slower speed, use the quarterback's ability to pinpoint at the right place. I mean, I think this guy would be a perfect fit for that kind of scheme, but it's going to take him a long time. I think a while to get there. I don't think this is like a guy in the first season of the NFL that will be successful. I think it's going to be like something that he'll have to work on throughout his career to kind of get the timing right with his quarterback to become successful. But all the intangibles as far as being 6'5", big body, those are all there. His speed is the only thing that's lacking.
I'll make it quick. I would have made Drake London a unanimous number 1 if it wasn't for the ankle fracture. And that was just last October or September or something like that. Yeah. So, that's a big deal. This isn't an ACL we're talking about anymore. These are broken bones in the feet that you use to plant to create that force on the ground, right? So, like, he's totally ready. I think, it's like exact opposite of what Shobit just said, but, who knows what the right answer is. There is no right answer. But I think, being 6'4", 219, again, I keep going after these really, really tall dudes. And it's because he's also a dual sport athlete. He played basketball and he played it well. So, whenever you take these basketball guys, put them on the football field, it's almost unfair at that point. No wonder, Sweetcard, when you watch these highlights, he's always going up and getting things because that's what he does. So, exactly. And he's really good at it. So I think he's pretty much ready. I think the reason why I don't put him number 1, and I think I should have probably made him unanimously 2 in my book and not 1A, 1B, kind of went overboard there. But the ankle injury is what separates him from Garrett Wilson. If it wasn't for the ankle injury, then I think the speed would have came, and I think he would have performed in the combine. But because of that, Garrett Wilson takes the crown in my list.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. So why don't you take us home with Garrett Wilson, and we'll chime in.
Dude, what do you? I'm going to be talking for hours if I talk about Garrett Wilson. But anyways, first of all, you need a good school that you came from to solidify why you're even important in the first place, right? Ohio State, always a, I don't want to say classy school because they suck, but in that aspect. But anybody coming from Ohio State, you want to keep an eye out for. And you have somebody like Garrett Wilson. He's not the biggest, and he's not, the strongest, but he could be the fastest on the field at any given time. So he's got great body control. You know, it's like a little, it's a little, I don't know what the comparison would be. What would you guys say would be the comparison for him in the NFL?
So my comparison I have is because my strength for the thing with Garrett Wilson is like he's got the 4.38 speed. He's got a 36-inch vertical, but he's got like a very, very smoothness and fluidity to the way he plays the position that it reminds me of Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin was not like the greatest route runner, but like the way he ran was so fucking like smooth.
He was
and like
grounded. He was grounded. Like he ran, they run like a car, you know, like when you turn a car, there's no like glitch. It's like, it's coming with power and it's coming fast.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing for him is that his weakness to me is the fact that he's not an insanely crisp route runner, but that's how scary it is that this guy's number one on my list, on your list, maybe your list, and unanimous, because despite the crispness in his route running lacking, the smoothness in which he glides and like how, like you mentioned, he's grounded makes up for that. And he's just constantly fucking open. He's always open. He's got great hands. He's got great separation. There's really nothing this guy can't do. He's, to me, the speed of Brandon Cooks, but the fluidity of Percy Harvin around the field. So I think that makes a pretty goddamn scary receiver.
Yeah, it's everything. It's not even just that much. Like he's a punt returner. He's an experienced punt returner. You get that aspect of it. Yep. He brings in really, really difficult jump balls and 50-50s. They're usually going to go to him, you know? And the best part about getting a receiver is these rare, quick, accelerating receivers. And now I think this would be a good segue to compare him to like a Tyreek Hill type of speed, because we're talking instant acceleration. We're talking things that nobody else can do. And I think, you know, even if he wasn't the best at catching the ball, even if he wasn't the fastest, having that instant acceleration factor changes everything. And when he has that, along with his speed, along with this crazy athleticism, going up and getting balls, separating well, running route well, it makes it pretty clear why he is the unanimous number one in this draft.
Yeah, he's number one in my books as well. And the comparison I have is an older guy, Marvin Harrison, someone that maybe doesn't possess like the.
This is going to be a Hall of Fame clash of it. Holy shit.
The potential, the ceiling is high. So no, the potential, he's 4.38, good hands and runs really good routes. I think that he doesn't have that typical frame, you know, as like a 6'3" guy, some of the other guys we talked about. But I mean, this is a guy with someone that can make an impact day one. I think no one else can you can say that about any other receiver than Garrett Wilson in this draft. So I think he's unanimous number one.
I do like the comparison to Marvin Harrison from the sense that Marvin Harrison, even on the field, was kind of similar, right? Like it never felt like he was the absolute fastest guy, but this guy just had like a fluidity about him that he was able to get open pretty much any given time that he wanted to. He was able to get open, but it wasn't like he was Tyreek killing you in speed. It wasn't like he was Randy Mossing you with like catches over, but he literally just got open. And that's literally what Garrett Wilson does, is he just gets open. And when he gets open, he's just smooth, man. It's something that you cannot teach. The way he breaks in and out, like all of that stuff is intangibles, or maybe not intangibles, but something he's practiced his whole life, but he just does it better. And there's something to be said when you watch the tape that it just looks better than other people. And that's what it is Garrett Wilson just does things and makes it look better than other people do. That's it. Anybody else you guys want to highlight or that we mentioned? Any dark horses, sleepers, somebody that nobody's mentioned that you're like, you know, keep an eye out on this guy?
No, I wanted to highlight Bell, and I got the ability to do that. So I think I'm good as far as highlighting some rarities.
Yeah, Alec Pierce was my biggest sleeper. I think he's got some of the build and stature that is worth taking a risk on. Another guy real quick, Wan'Dale Robinson. The dude's like 5'11", 185 pounds, but he's the small, shifty kind of Rondale Moore type receiver that I think has a spot in the NFL, and he's going like 4th, 5th round right now. So that's another guy that I think keep your eyes on. But that's all I have. Shoshova, you got anybody else?
No, I think we covered all of them. George Pickens was the guy that I was going to highlight, but we talked about him already. Mr. Calvin Johnson-ish.
Dude, I have the most opposite thoughts of George Pickens than both of you guys, so I'm so interested to see how this guy pans out. But that's all the receivers we have to talk about. Certainly appreciate your time. Draft day is 10 days away. I don't know if we'll have another episode with any other positions or if we'll just have our episode with our actual mock draft right before draft day. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're the Only Playbook. See ya when we see ya.